From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
We are back in the friendly confines of Raytown, Missouri, in the podcast studio here with another episode of Dale Carter's America. And we ask that you help us spread the word, because we are really trying. Kurt and I are really trying to be the voice of sanity in what appears to be an insane world. And I think you're going to hear that throughout this episode of the podcast, because right now, the fault line, Kurt, in America is you're either Orange Man bad or MAGA forever. And I think there's nuance in that. that we ought to talk about and make sure that we're doing the right things. And that's what we try and do on this podcast. It's why Bob Watson's been on board since nearly the beginning, and we really love having Bob. He was there at the live event as well, gave us some door prizes to hand out. You should come to the live event. We do it a couple of times a year, and there's always nice prizes, and Bobby always takes care of us on that, and he'll take care of you through State Farm Insurance. He's been a State Farm rep for 51 years now. Out of his office in 7th and Main in Blue Springs, 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. He handles the insurance for my cars and my house and everything else that's important to me. If it's important enough to insure, like a good neighbor, State Farm will be there. Bundle your home and car insurance and you'll save even more. Licensed in both Missouri and Kansas, Bob Watson's my State Farm guy. He can be your State Farm guy.
Tremendous people.
Let's start with some good news, because there is good news out there. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. By the way, as we record this on Thursday, Kurt, today would have been John F. Kennedy's 108th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's old.
And I went back and I listened to some stuff from his speeches, and Robert F. Kennedy is in a Republican administration, and I would suggest to you that John F. Kennedy might be in a Republican administration. When his inaugural address was, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, tell me where that's a Democrat option right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people speculate on that. It's possible. But Democrats, their big thing seems to be going whichever way the wind blows. So maybe he would have changed. I mean, Obama was, for closed borders and against gay marriage like 8 years ago. So.
Yeah, I know. And I put up that thing on the Facebook page about all the Democrats that were out there talking about illegal immigration and how those people, especially the ones who had committed crimes in this country, were not due process. And the question I asked was, are they racist too? And one of our favorite keyboard warriors said, yes, they're all racist.
Yeah.
Even Obama, the black guy, is a racist.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, I would ask too, what about the other countries that enforce their borders?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what about Mexico? Mexico deports illegal aliens to their country. So, I mean, what about
the Vatican?
Yeah.
Pope Leo from Chicago. He's sitting over there behind those walls.
Well, they would definitely say that that's racist.
I suppose. But there is good news, and I wanted to get to it. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, who is the nephew of John F. Kennedy, changing guidance on COVID vaccines to stop recommending the shot to healthy kids and pregnant women. How far behind did we put healthy kids, number one, closing the schools, giving them vaccines they didn't need, and pregnant women? And now we find out the vaccine might come with some heart side effects.
You don't say.
Crazy, right?
I mean, it's good news, I guess, but my question is, why are we still recommending this to anybody?
Exactly. There's a new COVID strain out there. Have you seen that? That was in the news this morning.
I saw it,
yeah. So here we go again, I suppose. Hopefully we've learned a lot from what happened there. And if Dr. Fauci did something wrong, he's got that get out of jail free card. He was pardoned for what he might have done, not necessarily what he did. I know, I'm getting ahead of myself. Do you have something you want to jump in here with?
No, that was just the article that I pulled up.
Okay.
For that.
So that is the good news. And there is good news out there. We temper it with some things that have been a disappointment for me. especially with Republicans in Congress that we're going to get to. And of course, we're going to deal with the whole Biden situation and the elder abuse going on there, and how you Democrats fell for all of this hook, line, and sinker. And some of you didn't even care. Mike Steinmeyer is with us. He is a state representative in Missouri. He was supposed to be with us on Tuesday night, but had some family issues, and we pray for his family and what they're going through. But he is going to join us from the Missouri State House with an update on what's going on with Jackson County and also the Chiefs and Royals. So it is a jam-packed podcast episode, and would not be happening without great sponsors like Dr. Mark Taormina. And, Dr. Mark is going to be with us, I think, next week.
Next week, yeah. I talked to him yesterday or the day before.
Because he wanted to be there last Tuesday night to talk about what Joe Biden's going through health-wise, and we couldn't work it out for this week, but next week I think he's going to be on, because he's the guy who's doing the colonoscopies, but that's really close to where that prostate is.
Yeah.
In fact, when he did my colonoscopy, maybe this is TMI, he said, I got a good look at the prostate, and it looks fine.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I was smiling at him.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about Joe Biden from a health perspective with a doctor, not my opinions, not Kurt's opinions, but an actual doctor who deals with cancer. In his case, he deals with colon cancer specifically. And if you are 45 years old and you have not had your colonoscopy yet, please get this on your calendar. MidwestGIHealth.com. That's the website for Dr. Mark Taormina. You can reach his office at 816-836-2200. You don't need your doctor to refer you. You can just call, get it scheduled, get it on the books, and come away with some peace of mind. Because if you're 45 and they catch this stuff early, they can treat it. And maybe you don't have anything at all. You get a clean bill of health, and he says, come back in 10 years. Either way, you're going to be the winner with Dr. Mark Taormina and Midwest GI Health and Wellness. If you're like me and you're approaching 65, it's a few years out for me, but certainly I'm thinking about Medicare and what that's going to look like. That's where Kirk Doris comes in at Medicare Simplified KC. That's the website, MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. It doesn't matter whether Republicans or Democrats are running the show. Medicare is still what it is. It's a government program, and quite frankly, it's a mess. And you need someone on your side who's helped thousands of people navigate these waters, and that would be Kirk Doris. So he'll come to you, you go to him, get the conversation started. 816-701-6661. They have an office in Independence, but again, either you go to him or he'll come to you. If you've got somebody in your family or your friend circle who's approaching 65, they need to get this message as well. Medicare Simplified KC. And don't fall for the scams. The scam artists are out there. If somebody calls you and says they're from Medicare or Social Security, hang up on them immediately, because it just doesn't happen that way. Get with the pros, both Mark Taormina and Kirk Doris. They will take care of you. And maybe Biden needed somebody like either one of these folks with an intervention. So the big question, and again, people like Scott Parks. Remember when we had Scott Parks on from KMBZ?
Yes.
He was so anti-Trump that he said, I don't care.
Yeah.
Joe Biden could be in a coma, drooling on himself, and I'm still going to vote for Joe Biden.
Right.
That's your Democrat Party for you right there. So what we had was a situation where it's clear now, and this isn't, conspiracy theory. This isn't coming from a bunch of Republicans. This is coming from Democrats who had access to the West Wing. We know now that Joe Biden was not running this country.
Yeah.
Who was?
It's a good question. We've always speculated about it. He obviously had the autopen, which we'll talk about. But there was, who David Hogg is?
I do.
So there was a leaked video that just came out of him.
He's the guy from the DNC who said he was going to...
he's the scrawny little kid from Parkland that was...
Yeah.
made famous after the school shooting.
He's the guy who wanted to spend millions of dollars to primary old Democrats.
Yes.
To get a new thing. And,
yes.
And the folks of the hierarchy said, well, if you want to do that, you can't be in the party.
Right. Yeah, but this, I don't know, I guess this is from a few days ago, but here's a video of him talking about it.
Yes, nice to meet you. Yeah. Off the record, of course.
Foundational question for me is how corrupt is the DNC? If so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden.
Well,
the president of the United States.
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Trump.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's like a shadowy, like, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so, like, I knew how he looked, but I'm like, the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
So yeah, that's just a little teaser from Project Veritas, but it's a great question, and it's reminiscent of we talked a little bit about this last week off air, but it's reminiscent of like the Soviet Union. Was it which was the Soviet president that had all the heart attacks in office and nobody? Well,
there
knew
were
about
a bunch of them. You know, Chernenko, Andropov, Brezhnev.
Yeah.
You know, Boris Yeltsin.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, and you know, he's not running anything. He's like dying basically.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we basically live in a Soviet system where we have no idea who's running our country. We have no idea who's running the government. Now we do because Trump tweets about it all the time. But
well, and 25-30% of the country, the electorate, doesn't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're fine with it now, knowing what was going on. And, you know, not since Woodrow Wilson had a stroke, right?
Yeah.
He was the president. And we didn't have the communication or social media that we have today. And his wife, as has been uncovered through countless books, his wife, Edith, was running this country. She was signing bills in his name. They didn't have an autopen back then. It was the World War I era. But Woodrow Wilson was not capable of running this country. Now, you know, the 25th Amendment came along in the late 60s. If there were ever a case for the 25th Amendment to be invoked, this was it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, and when did we actually find out about, I don't know much about the Woodrow Wilson thing. When did we actually find out about that?
Years, decades later. I mean, you know, and again, there are a lot of books on it, and history's a great, you know, predictor of what is going on, because history's cyclical too. It comes back around again. So here we are in the 21st century, and we've got a president who can't do his job, and the people around him close ranks.
Yeah.
I mean, these aides who were signing things were not even Senate vetted. We're not talking about cabinet officers.
Yeah.
We're talking about aides to Joe Biden who were signing important documents.
Yeah.
And you and I aren't saying that. People inside that White House are saying it.
Totally. And then there was also this old clip. It brings back a lot of old clips of Joe Biden that were, you know, we probably played this on the podcast and we're like, oh, that's just a silly gaffe.
Yeah.
He's being like stupid and old. He doesn't know where he is. But listen to what he says. This was in 2022.
And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? It had to put on their windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
They said it was a gaffe.
Yeah. And that's the convenient cover of all of this, is because they tried to pretend like he wasn't old and senile, but everyone knew that he was old and senile. Mm-hmm. He can say something like that and everyone just kind of brushes it off because, you know, he talks about like corn pop or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's like people are like, oh, he doesn't know what he's saying.
And the hypocrisy is just so thick here. Because you had people saying that we've got to keep Joe Biden in the White House because Trump is a threat to democracy. What's the bigger threat to democracy? You've got an old man who is not running the country. Thank God somebody kept the nuclear codes away from him. And you've got aides to the president and the first lady. And there's no recourse for this. We can bitch about this for years. We can. I heard Trey Gowdy on another show talking about how toothless Congress really is.
Yeah.
He said, we don't have a police force. You know, we make a big show out of calling people in for hearings, but there's no follow-up to it. There's no enforcement mechanism. So again, we could bitch about this all day long. We can't forget. And some of you Democrats out there drank the Kool-Aid. You weren't on the level of, well, we've got to protect against Donald Trump because Donald Trump's Hitler and he's a threat to democracy. We push back. People with a brain push back and say, how is he a threat to democracy? Really? I mean, and right now, you can go on social media, and it is exhausting. Have you noticed that? The back and forth. He did that. Well, he did that. I don't care. We need to move this country forward. Donald Trump pardoned a couple of people, and I guess it was a controversial pardon or whatever. And now the left has got their hair on fire about that. Have they gone through all 2,500 pardons that the autopen wielded by someone we don't know signed off on?
Do they even care? I mean, like you mentioned, do they even care about the autopen? I had never heard the term autopen before this all happened. I didn't even know that was possible.
It is possible. And if you get and I thought the guy from Fox, who's the Peter Ducey, I thought he asked a great question in the briefing room. He didn't get a question or an answer on it. This is back when Karine Jean-Pierre was there. He wanted to know if there is like a swipe that somebody has to make. I mean, do you have to like sign in to use the autopen? How does that work? Is there any breadcrumbs as to who actually signed the thing? I mean, if you look at this and take off our MAGA or, anti-MAGA hat, orange man bad or whatever, if you take that hat off and just look at it from back here, this is a bigger scandal than Watergate was. And Watergate almost brought the country down. I can't believe this happened in America in 2025.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's something that we all kind of knew. We all kind of knew that he wasn't running the country, but now it's more obvious than ever. And he had cancer, on top of it. So, and, we pray for Joe Biden. Obviously, we don't want anything bad to happen to him or anything, but it's just a sign of the state of our government and the state of the executive branch in particular in this case. But we talked about this again last week, but it really brings up the question of like, who knew about his cancer? Did he even know about his cancer? I think yes, because of that slip up that we just played back from 2022. But like, were they actively covering it up? Or the other option is that they didn't even test him for it because they didn't want to find out, because if they found out, then they would have had to cover it up. So,
we're going to get Dr. Mark Taormina on next week. The President of the United States gets excellent health care, the very best health care that you can get in America. So I'm sure somebody at a medical level knew what was going on there. It is very convenient that a stage 4 diagnosis, which is the worst, can come out at the same time as the Her audio is released and these books start hitting the market.
Yeah. Speaking of books, can we dunk on Jake Tapper for a little bit?
Absolutely.
So, we obviously he has his new book that's coming out or is out or whatever. But all these old clips of him dismissing claims of Biden's health are resurfacing. And then I'm going to play another clip from Jon Stewart, actually, who nailed him. But let's watch this.
All right, clip
what
away.
Stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that.
It's very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. I can't. This is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline. President Biden embraces his stutter, talking about it, while Trump mocks it, exaggerates it, belittles it. He's sharp physically. I mean, mentally.
Yeah.
I think the question is physically, right?
Right.
More so?
Right.
Right. And the guy who's his chief opponent is only 3 or 4 years younger than him.
Exactly.
I mean, you have questioned President Biden's age, mental fitness, ability to lead. Of those supporting Biden, you said, quote, shame on all of you pretending everything is okay. You're leading us and him into a disaster. Do you worry that you damaged him at all? I don't doubt that you got hugs and handshakes behind closed doors today, and maybe even publicly, some of them because they like you personally. But I've heard a lot of really nasty stuff about you from your Democratic colleagues. Sure. I mean, just like, what is he thinking? Exercise.
That's such a terrible thing to do. Like, just as a conversation tactic or a debate tactic, like, oh, yeah, people are saying just really bad things about you. Like, screw you.
Yeah.
As a narcissism, I mean, false claims to the Wall Street Journal about President Biden's mental fitness and acuity. He's 81, and his memory, it doesn't seem great. It's not horrible, but I don't understand the outrage. Quote, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping, unquote. The Wall Street Journal is owned by News Corp, which is run by the Murdochs. Beyond the headline,
So, I mean, it goes on and on and on, but you can see, obviously, he's covering for him. But now...
Of course, now he's written a book.
Now it's his time.
How did we miss this?
Yeah.
How did we miss this?
So, Jon Stewart, of all people, who is sometimes fair, I have to be honest, but he had such a great bit on this. I'm going to play some of it, and we'll see if we get a copyright strike or not. But this was really funny because he has all the clips of him hawking his book on CNN.
Yeah.
We're back with breaking news in our politics lead and a brand new excerpt from my upcoming book with Axios' Alex Thompson. It's called Original Sin. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's on Biden's decline. It's called Original Sin. I'm sure you've heard on May 20th. That's Tuesday. Original Sin. That's coming out in 3 weeks. On May 20th. That's just 19 days away. In 1 week and 1 day. Coming out in just a few days. Comes out Tuesday. You will not believe what we found out.
I believe it. Do you believe it? Oh, my God.
I won't play the whole Jon Stewart clip, but he goes on to say, like, isn't that your job to tell us what you found out? Like, you're on the news. Like,
Yeah. He's not.
like, you won't believe what we found out in 1 week.
Because, Trump was such a threat to democracy, they had to do this and let you think that everything is fine. There's nothing to see here, right? Move along. Nothing to see here. He's running circles around everyone in the White House, which if he were, that might say something too. I mean, did anybody seen Biden? He's over there.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
Well, and the other thing too is like he has terminal cancer.
Yeah.
So what would have happened if he had won? I mean, obviously the plan was to just get him across the finish line.
Yeah, and then come out.
Let him, and then they probably would have 25th Amendment him, like maybe not on the first day because that would have been too obvious, but like in the first month, in the first 2 months, the first 6 months, they would have gotten him out and they would have put her in. So
that's where we would be.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, Republicans had eyes and ears. You didn't fool us at all. We've been talking about this, probably not at the very beginning of the Biden administration, but it became very clear quickly that he was not right and it was going downhill fast. So we were talking about this. Conservative media was talking about this. It was Democrats who denied the entire thing, right? The problem is, and this is the big issue, Kamala Harris went on The View, a softball forum, right? If there ever was a softball forum. Sonny Hostin says, well, what would you do differently from Biden? And she looked like a deer in the headlights. And she's like, well, I don't think there's any daylight between us at all. So the bottom line is for Democrats is your policies suck. All right? America thinks your policies suck. The border, inflation, the world stage, energy, the policies that you brought to the table suck. And she was going to do the same thing. So if he had stayed in there, somehow won, as Kurt speculated, and she took over, we'd still be going down this hole, this rabbit hole. So hopefully we have a prayer here that we can move this country forward. Now, as far as Democrats go, you guys are flailing in the forest here. And all you've got with your crowd is Orange Man Bad. And I'm so tired of that. You see it on Facebook, right? Orange Man Bad. That's all they have.
I don't read as many comments as I used to.
I just scroll on because I'm just tired of reading it all. I did see this though, and I'm not making this up. This is not The Onion. This is not, some parody or satire going on. The Democrat Party, the DNC, is spending $20 million to fix their man problem because they realize that they've alienated, especially white men in this country, right? With all of their policies, they've alienated white men, and they're like, well, we just don't know how to talk to them. So they're going to spend $20 million to figure out how to talk to white men.
Let's watch.
Democrats are beginning to acknowledge a major disconnect within the party. Several lawmakers telling the New York Times the party does not know how to move forward. Arguments only intensifying over cultural issues and key voting demographics. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joins us. So the party does have one plan in motion aimed specifically at young male voters, Jeff, and it sounds like they're pouring a lot of money into it.
New York Times reporting, Dee, the Democratic Party is investing $20 million to win back those young male voters. The effort being called Speaking with American Men, a Strategic Plan. The effort will study the syntax, language, and content that gains the attention and also goes viral in these spaces. Several Democratic lawmakers tell the outlet the party is still trying to figure out how to move forward as it remains unpopular among voters. Now, according to a recent NBC News poll, only 27% of registered voters have a positive view of the party, the lowest positive rating since 1990. Now, Colorado Representative Jason Crow telling The Times Democrats are losing support in rural America, including in the Midwest, saying the party is pushing voters away. Democratic pollsters are also warning that the party's brand has started to become off-putting to many Americans, cautioning Democrats against taking the wrong message from any success during the 2026 midterms.
All right, so there you go.
Studying syntax.
And they think, Kurt, that their policies are fine. It's the messaging that's off. Now, they've given up on old guys like me. You notice they're targeting the $20 million at young white guys like you. So what could they say to get you back in the fold? Not that you were ever in the fold, but you know.
I just think it's funny, like, studying the syntax, and then they come back and they're like, wow, they're really using a lot of slurs. It's like, you know, they're calling each other mean names. Wow, yeah. Maybe we need to start doing that.
Wow, could be.
No, I'm just playing. It's just funny, you know. Maybe just like be normal and like talk to people like a human being, and not like patronize people and, you know, try and make everyone a victim. You know, maybe we don't like that.
Maybe not. Maybe not run, you know, Richard Simmons for vice president.
Yeah.
Tim Walz, I'm here. I mean, you know, I'm going to be manly. I'm going to work on my truck.
Yeah.
I'm going to put on a camo hat. I mean, really?
There was this old ad that they ran too. I'm trying to find it. I think this is it right here. Let me see. I haven't vetted this, but I believe this is the ad.
Man enough. I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women.
I'm not afraid of women. I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies? Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it.
I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse. I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually. Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful. That's not how my mama raised me.
I love women.
I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge. And I'm man enough to help them win.
Wow. I don't.
That is fantastic.
I
don't
love
love that so much.
I don't think anything in that spot is the reason why young white men voted for Donald Trump.
I'm a real man, and that's why I support women's right to choose.
And by the way,
I'm a real man. That's why I think if you want to change your gender and chop off your cack, go ahead and do it. I fully support you. I'm a real man.
That's it. Like, well, they're working on their syntax, I suppose. There was a term in that spot, raw dogging, which when that came, that was kind of a news story. It was about men who were going to be quiet on an airplane, right, and just be silent for the entire plane ride. Our gay general manager told me that there's another meaning to raw dogging that has nothing to do with that.
Yes.
So I'm just going to leave that there. You can go look that up yourself.
Don't look it up.
Definitely don't go to the images. That would probably not be good. All right. So, I mean, that's kind of where I am on the Democrats. I don't want to spend a lot of time on them because I really don't want to go through hearings and all that. I want to look forward. Don't you want to look forward?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't get enough of that ad.
I'm a real man, and that's why all the illegals should stay in our homes and our hotels. We should give them free housing and health care. I'm a real man. That's why I'm compassionate.
Now that may be why they lost. If that's what they're saying, that it's not the policies, it's how we were talking. If we had just been more manly in our language.
I'm a real man. I cry when I watch Pride and Prejudice with my wife. Once a week, I cry on her shoulder and I sob. She likes it.
You could do a whole damn episode with this if you want to. We got to move on here. There's other things to talk about. Chad Taylor, a real man. He gives me a lot of grief, because I put up a picture of myself on Facebook this week. It was a rainy day, and I was going to read a book in the bathtub, and I had some candles lit and all that. And he's like, turn in your man card. What are you doing? And then I put up some pictures of my hydrangea bush yesterday, and he's like, oh, you should pick some flowers and put them next to your candle, and you can read your book in the bathtub.
I'm a real man.
Because Chad
I
Taylor
plant flowers and I drink girly drinks on the beach.
Chad Taylor's a real man, and he's going to help you get the mortgage that you need, okay? TheRedCarpetLender.com is where you find Chad Taylor. If you're going to go house shopping this spring, maybe a good time. Maybe your circumstances have changed and you want to get a new house. Maybe your mortgage is your way out of debt. Chad Taylor can get you financed. He's not going to tell you no, he's going to tell you how. There's no upfront hard credit hit to see if you can get approved for a home loan. He'll waive fees for veterans as a thank you for your service. Free appraisals for first-time home buyers, police, fire employees, along with all school district employees. You don't need perfect credit. Chad is licensed in Missouri and Kansas. The most important thing, if a mortgage is part of your life, if you want to go house shopping, start at TheRedCarpetLender.com. TheRedCarpetLender.com. And if you've been somewhere else, he'll give you a free second opinion to compare fees and rates. So that when you go see my friend Michael Schroer and buy a house, you're going to be pre-qualified with exactly how much house you can afford. And Michael's got a litany of houses that fit any budget, any life circumstance. And I tell you, I see him online every day and he's like, sold. We sold another one. And these are really nice houses that he's selling. Michael Schroer is our broker, real estate broker with RE/MAX Elite in Lee's Summit. So after you've gotten your mortgage approval and you know how much house you can afford, call Michael and he can get you the house of your dreams. Whether it's your first house, expanded bedrooms because you got more kids coming. Maybe you're like me and you're on the other side of that. Kids are off to college or whatever and you're downsizing. Or maybe you found a piece of property you want to build your dream home. Michael Schroer is the guy to get that done. Reach out to him at 816-373-8400. Michael Schroer, his cell phone, 816-520-9342. He can help you sell the house you've got and find your brand new home. So Chad Taylor, Michael Schroer, I don't think they've ever met, but on this podcast, they work hand in glove.
Absolutely.
And Michael's a real man.
He's a real man.
He doesn't need to have your, impersonation of a real man. Some guys just walk into a room and that's a dude.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's like that.
And sometimes you don't. Sometimes it looks like a lady, but he's still a real man.
I got to tell you, I was doing a story on my show this morning on Caitlin Clark. She's going to be on the injured list of the WNBA for the next 2 weeks. And I don't watch WNBA. I don't watch the NBA. I don't really care about basketball. Sometimes college basketball can suck me in. But Ed Walker said he got a kick out of this because I said, she's competing in the WNBA against other women. At least I think there are other women. Pretty sure there are other women.
You know who watches the WNBA?
Who's that?
Real men.
Real men watch the WNBA. Good Lord. Let's get this thing back on track here. What do you say? All right.
Yeah.
So Republicans. And what should we be focusing on right now? And I've told you many times on this podcast, I'm not in the bag for Donald Trump. I'm not sucked into the whole MAGA thing. I want certain things out of my federal government, a lot less than the Democrats want out of it. And I can say when I'm disappointed in something. And like Elon Musk, I am very disappointed in the big, beautiful bill. And I probably would have voted against it in the House because it's a sham. I remember when we were talking about this several weeks ago, Kurt, and I told you the difference between the House and the Senate version was $1.5 trillion over 10 years for the House and something like $400 billion over 10 years in the Senate. And you're like, why does it have to take 10 years?
Right.
Why can't we just go in there and start cutting? Well, now, it's gotten into the mess that's Congress, and now you got a bunch of ballless people, Republicans, because we knew the Democrats were all going to vote against it, right? They've never met a spending bill or a tax increase they don't love. They want us to spend more. Bernie Sanders, right now we're spending $7 trillion, our federal spending. He wants it to be 10.
Yeah.
Right? So they've got no governor. We knew we were going to lose all them. We thought for a shining moment with a Republican majority, slim as it is, in both the House and the Senate, we would have some Republicans who had some balls who went in there and said, this is insanity and we've got to stop it. And they're not doing it.
Yeah. I don't know much about the bill. I haven't looked into it, but it's called the Big Beautiful Bill. Yeah. Like, that doesn't sound very good. That sounds ominous.
The good news out of it, and there are some lies going out there in memes on Facebook. Again, you can exhaust yourself. And I pray to God for my friends on the left. And some of them have unfriended me because I'm trying to tell them the truth. I pray for them from the deepest part of my soul that they will get beyond this orange man bad thing, because it is, again, all they've got. It's tiring, and they're losing friends, and they're going to get into like a campfire of like 4 or 5 people, and it's Donald Trump's bad. No, he's worse than bad. He's Hitler. He's Osama bin Laden. And they're just going to go around the campfire, and nobody else is going to give a shit.
Yeah. What's next after Hitler? Somebody's got a one up.
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then the devil? Would the devil be worse?
I don't know. I think Hitler is worse than the devil, unfortunately, in our modern, social context. Yeah. It's basically the worst thing you can call someone.
Elon Musk is out at Doge. He put in 130 days. He did not take a salary. He took a lot of abuse. His company took a lot of abuse. People on the left set his vehicles on fire, and there were people on the left who justified that, which is just crazy. So he's leaving. He's disappointed because all these cuts that he made really need to you can do an executive order. We've talked about executive orders. You sign an executive order in pencil, basically, until the next guy comes in and erases it. You've got to codify it in legislation for it to mean anything. And Elon Musk will tell you it's not going to be codified in legislation. They don't have the will.
Yep. You want to watch this clip?
Sure.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
Fair
My
point.
personal opinion.
Yeah, fair point. So it's going through the House and the Senate, and Republicans, whatever they come out with, they're going to put lipstick on a pig and try and sell us that this is the greatest thing ever, and it's not. About the best thing that could happen out of this would be to solidify the 2017 tax cuts, because if we don't have those, and the Democrats lie about that, they say that it's only the top people who are getting the benefit out of it. Everyone who pays federal income taxes got a benefit out of that. Now the problem is you go down to the lower level and people aren't paying federal income tax.
Right.
They just want to sit back and get their check. And again,
more people at the top brackets. The people at the top brackets pay more in taxes.
Of course they do.
So they're going to see more benefit from a tax cut.
Duh.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not the Democrat mindset. The Democrat mindset is to punish anyone who has been successful in this country and redistribute their income down here.
Right. And it also goes back to the fundamental issue, which we've talked about before, which is that they talk about it as if it's their money. Like they talk about it like, oh, you're letting them, they're getting a tax cut. It's, stealing from people. Right. No, you're stealing from them by taking their money.
Exactly.
It's, we all agree. Obviously, we need some taxes, right? We agree as a society on what that tax level is going to be, what it's going to look like, what it's going to go to, theoretically. But by letting them keep more of their money, you're not stealing from anybody. You're actually letting people keep what they earned.
If only they had to write a check instead of having automatic withholding, that changed the entire equation, because you don't see it. I don't see it coming out of my check unless I really dig into it and want to look at it. If you had to every 2 weeks write a check for what the federal government's taking out of your check, what FICA's taking out, the state, Kansas City, I mean, it might open a lot more eyes, but we're not going to have that. We can't even get Republicans to agree to cut illegals and lazy able people off the Medicaid rolls. We can't, because they have no balls. There's like maybe 5 members of the House, like Chip Roy, for instance. You know, there's about 5 of them. I heard one, I can't remember his name. I heard him on one of the national shows yesterday, and he's running up the white flag. He's like, I'm tired of being the only one who's going to do this. He says, I vote no on bills that have really flowery names, but when you dig into it, it's the same old crap. And again, the debt clock continues to roll. We're this close to $37 trillion. To Elon Musk's point, the deficit is going to get higher. The money, the deficit ends up going to the bottom line of the debt. And I had this argument with, again, one of our favorite keyboard warriors who would tell me that I'm just totally wrong on this, that the debt and deficit don't mean anything because we are the standard currency in the world. So it doesn't mean anything. Well, I'm like, well, hell, if it doesn't mean anything, let's run it up to $100 million. Let's take the debt ceiling off. Spend, spend, spend. Deficit, yeah, we don't care. Run it up as high as you want to. Give everybody a check. I mean, you know, it does matter. If it didn't, we wouldn't have it.
Yeah, and like, yeah, the dollar is the reserve currency, but for how long? You know, that's the other question. What's going to happen if inflation keeps going and spending keeps going at the rate that it does? The dollar means less and less. It's worth less and less. At what point are the BRICS nations, who are already talking about it, and then they'll lead the way for other countries to come off of the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency, either go back to a gold standard or go to the yuan or whatever other currency that they want to, you know, use, and then we're screwed. So you can say that, take that to the bank, and your 401k is going to be in the toilet. So good luck with that.
Our buddy Ben, who's the keyboard warrior, also for eliminating the border entirely, spending even more federal dollars in our crumbling cities because that's worked so well, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll write. You know this guy, right?
Nah, loosely. Yeah, we haven't talked in a while.
I'm not going to give out his last name because I don't want to get sued. You know, we got to be very careful about that around here. Yeah. Tariffs are. There's a ruling out today from the court that oversees trade, and they were unanimous, and they said Donald Trump cannot impose all these tariffs on countries around the world. And again, it was unanimous. I don't know what's going to happen there, but the stock market really took off because the stock market doesn't like this whole tariff mess because there is no certainty. And you know that I've been kind of on the fence leaning against tariffs. They're a Democrat tool. Democrats over the years have been much more in favor of tariffs than Republicans have. And, you know, Donald Trump's answer to this to Walmart was, you guys got to eat the tariffs. They're not going to eat the tariffs. That's the same lie that the Democrats tell when they say, we're just going to tax the rich. The rich are going to pay this. It won't affect you a bit.
Right.
Well, you know, it always trickles down. And a tariff is the same way. If Walmart's cost of goods goes up, they're going to filter that down to the people who buy it.
Yeah. And I think the issue, we've talked about this a little bit, but the issue is not necessarily the tariffs itself. It's the uncertainty, like you just mentioned. That's what's causing the market to go crazy. And ultimately, you know, the market may take a hit if we actually put tariffs in place and keep them in place, because everyone, all the foreign investors are going to be freaking out. Everyone that's inflating all these stock prices is going to be freaking out. But in the long run, we can actually restructure the American economy and create something like, you know, a real American energy and industrial powerhouse like we had in the early part of the 20th century, which we don't have anymore.
No, we don't.
It's been taken away from us by China and India and all these other countries. But the problem is the uncertainty, because he keeps going back and forth on it. He says, I'm going to impose tariffs. And then he says, oh, we made a deal. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with Canada. We're taking them off. So the market's going like this. It goes up. It goes down. You know, now it's back up again. All the people that were complaining on Facebook about their 401ks going down and saying, thanks, Trump, my 401ks in the toilet. You know, where are they now? Where are they now? It's way up. So not that I'm saying he deserves credit for that, but you know what I mean.
Is there well, he does. He deserves credit and blame because he's out there making the news every day.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Unlike Joe Biden, this is side light here, but this just cracks me up because you've got a president in Donald Trump who is more accessible to the media than anybody ever has been in the history of this country, right? He's there every day and he's taking questions and they're putting him in a box. They're saying, what do you think about that? And then he answers and that becomes the headline story of the night. Meanwhile, Joe Biden, the only times he went out were very scripted. It's like you will call on this person over here and they will ask you this question and you'll say this. And he still screwed that up.
Right.
Right? So that's the difference between these two presidents.
Well, can I add something to that too? Because you could actually say, because you're right, it is the things that Trump is saying, right, about the tariffs or whatever that is causing all these fluctuations. He's directly causing that in a sense. But you could even say that it's actually the media that's causing that because they're the ones that are pressing the issue. They're the ones that are asking him the questions. They're the ones that are pushing all these headlines about all this negative things that are going to happen from the tariffs that haven't even been implemented yet, that are still in negotiation. So they're kind of causing it in their own way too, you know, and they're, like we're going to watch this clip, they're asking him these loaded questions and getting him to say something inflammatory that's going to, you know, cause people to freak out. So let's check it out.
They're able to do that. When you say that Walmart should eat the cost of the tariffs, is that an acknowledgement that it is U.S. companies that bear the brunt of tariffs, not foreign countries?
Sometimes the country will eat it. Sometimes Walmart will eat it. And sometimes there'll be something to pay, something extra. I've always been a fan and I've always believed. And if you look, take a look at what I did 4 years ago. We had the greatest economy and we had no inflation. Remember that. We had no inflation. And yet we had hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs that I put on China, yet we had no inflation, we had no big cost differential. Oftentimes, and I don't like it when a department store, because they'll do a lot of business, but you know they announce record profits and everything else. They have to take out some of their profits. They'll make a little bit less money. But I don't want the consumer to pay.
You know what I wish, and it's never going to happen in these 3.5 years left of Donald Trump, I wish he would stop being so accessible, right? And just get behind closed doors and do the job, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I had a therapist once, a marriage therapist, who told me that, you know, if you're giving oxygen to a fire, the fire will rage. If you seal the vent, the fire goes away.
Yep.
And you'd see a lot of this go away, but he's not going to do that. One thing he could do, the power of rescission. That's a deal where he can take funding that's already been approved by Congress and say, I, as the president of the United States, do not think we should spend this money, and get an up or down vote in the Senate. And I'm not hopeful that'll happen. They're going to send the first tranche of this, as they call it, and it's going to be aimed at people who are on Medicaid, who are illegals and or able-bodied people sitting on their ass eating Cheetos and playing video games. And if that passes, maybe there will be a next tranche. But that is not subject to cloture in the Senate, so it's an easy 50-50 deal. And because Republicans have a slim majority in both houses of Congress, they can get that done. We'll see if that happens. I'm not hopeful.
Yeah, what is it, 51 or 52 in the Senate? I forget.
Yeah, it might be. I'm not sure what the current math is, but it's enough.
Yeah.
And even if it were 50-50, think about the infrastructure bill. I mean, trillions of dollars of spending passed in a 50-50 Senate with Kamala Harris casting the tie-breaking vote.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to worry about that. And of course they'll whine and they'll cry and they'll be like, oh, it's a 50-50 deal. And, you know, you just broke the tie with the VP. You spent $2 trillion doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to cry about that. So we'll see what happens with that, but keep your eye on that. The word is rescission, and we'll see if that happens or not. All right. So the things that people are getting mad about, it's just, again, it's exhausting to watch this back and forth. I had a friend that I went to grade school with, and I told her we went back and forth on a couple of replies, and I said, this is all in my humble opinion, and I love you to the moon, always have since grade school. And she said, it has nothing to do with that. So we're going to remain friends despite our political disagreements. Too many people in this country, and you know some of them, have put up a firewall, have not only unfriended people on Facebook that they've known for 30 plus years, but have also blocked them. So they don't even want to have the conversation anymore. So she had a long rant about Trump's quote unquote $45 million birthday parade. And I've talked to other people about this. Can we set the record straight that his birthday is June 14th, which is also Flag Day, which is also the 250th anniversary of the Army? It's their birthday party. And a $45 million parade. Do you know how small, infinitesimal $45 million is compared to the federal budget right now? It's a drop. They're arguing about a drop in the ocean right now, just to get under our skin and say orange man bad and all this. I told a friend of mine today who raised that issue. I said, this reminds me of a scenario where the Titanic has just hit the iceberg, right? And is slowly sinking into the Atlantic Ocean. And you're worried about the salt and pepper shakers in the dining room.
Yeah,
That's
right.
how insignificant $45 million is. But they're making a big deal out of it, right? Frankly,
they make a big deal about all these little things because they have nothing to talk about.
That's it. And then you got Ilhan Omar. I believe, Kurt, that she would like to see Hamas running this country. The rhetoric that comes out of this woman's mouth, I cannot believe that she is a duly elected member of the House of Representatives. And the latest chapter in that, you've seen the story, 2 American Jews, one from Overland Park, right in our backyard, delightful looking young lady with the guy she was going to marry. They take a tour of a museum in Washington, D.C. They come out and some crazy guy from Chicago shouting "Free Palestine" kills them both in the capital of the United States of America. And a reporter comes up to her and says, "You want to comment on that?" And she runs like a cockroach when the light comes on. Can't even speak up for that.
Here's the clip here.
Congresswoman Omar,
Can
I get your reaction to the shooting that happened in D.C. last night?
I'm going to go for now. I'm going to go for now, Mark. Couldn't even say condolences for the family.
I'm going to be honest with you. That's a pretty stupid attack. I mean, you're just walking, some random person comes up to you with a microphone and they demand an answer from you. I mean, you're not going to...
Happens every day on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, but just for her to not acknowledge that, it's not like she's saying, oh, yeah, I'm glad they got killed,
But look at her rhetoric, right? And these people, with the Free Palestine movement, number one, they can't find Gaza on a map. They're just shouting things to be in the opposition. And many of them, for very obvious reasons, would not be welcome in a Muslim country.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with her response to the shooting or the particular situation. I mean, it's like clickbait. It's clickbait. It's like Fox News clickbait. They run up to her, they demand an answer. She says, "Not right now." And that was it. Nothing happened. And now they have to make a whole segment out of it and say, "Oh, she denied, she denied to give condolences for the family." It's like, no, she didn't. She wasn't in a press conference. She wasn't, some random person came up with her to a microphone and she didn't give a comment. So what? It's like, it's not that big of a deal.
If you can find a clip for me where she says this should not happen in this country, I'll retract all this and I'll give her an apology. You won't, because she doesn't. Every public comment she makes is on the other side.
Yeah, I don't really know specifically what she says. I guess it would depend on the individual case.
All right, so we'll move on, and I'll tell you what I think Trump can do to move this country forward, given the fact that there is no sentiment for cutting spending in a Republican Congress, which breaks my heart. So what he can do while he has power to maybe put us in a better position for the 2026 midterms is continue to strengthen the border, Expel those illegals. I heard today that they're going to go from like 1,800 a day is their goal to expel to like 3,000. So they're expelling the worst of the worst. So keep that going. If you can do anything with this quote-unquote big, beautiful bill, get the 2017 tax cuts solidified. Because right now, we're still enjoying the benefits of the 2017 tax cuts. You take those off the table, we've got real problems in this country. And the Democrats will demagogue it, and they'll say it's only the rich of the richest people who are going to get socked with this. It will never affect you. It's like saying a tariff won't affect you. The tax, if you take the people who create businesses in this country, who employ people in this country, and you hit them with a huge tax increase, what are they going to do, Kurt? You know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to bring in the fences. Well, I don't need that. I don't need that. Hey, I don't need you anymore. And it's going to have a downward spiral on the rest of the economy. So get that solidified. Get stability with our trading partners. We told you that a court has stepped in and said that Donald Trump cannot tariff everybody in the world on a whim. And I don't know where that's going to go. We'll see. My guess is we're going to continue to have, we're going to do this tariff. Nope, we're going to take this tariff off. And the markets are going to continue to wobble. And that affects a lot of people, especially those with retirements, 401ks, IRAs. It's more important at my age than yours because you have a lot of time to make it up.
Yeah.
And get Ukraine and Israel settled. You know, he said he'd do that on day one. He's finding out that's a little tougher. I think Vladimir Putin may have be off his rocker and can't be reasoned with anymore. I don't understand why. It seems to me that the sentiment in Russia would be, my God, we're losing people every day. Is there not a path to peace here?
Is that not their position?
I don't know. I mean, the war continues. I mean, as long as he's firing missiles, the war is going to continue. So get that settled. Get Israel settled. If he does those four things, I think he makes a compelling case for not losing his ass in the 2026 midterms. If he does that, who knows what's going to happen? I don't. It'll be, he'll make a lot of great copy. There'll be a lot of clips that we can play on the podcast. But what is really going to happen? It'll be gridlock for 2 years, and then who knows what? Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, this is the time that we always say, he has a majority in both houses of Congress. He has the presidency. So now's the time that they need to be putting in the work, for sure.
So get it done. And Republicans, my buddy Mark Alford, grow a set of balls. Get on that House floor and demand cuts. You know what the right answers are. Get out there and do it. Don't let Chip Roy do all this by himself. Let's get some people in there who really want to get things cut because they know what's going on here and need to restrict the size of government that just continues to grow like a hydra. What may have happened to you in the recent storms, you might have some roof damage. You ought to take a look. Get up on that roof. Well, not you. Get Royal Roofing and Solar up on the roof. Roofedbyroyal.com. They did the roof on my house. They did a fantastic job. In fact, I don't want to get in trouble. I worry about getting in trouble sometimes, so I'm not going to name names here. But one of my neighbors in my neighborhood, and I'm not even going to give out the neighborhood, got a roof from someone other than Royal Roofing and Solar. And it looks like a patchwork quilt. It looks hideous. The colors in it, I mean, my God. Did anybody stand back and look at that before it went up? I mean, Austin Watterson would never let me have a roof like that. So get the guy in there that I trust to do my roof, not a fly-by-night company. He's going to be here to help you with insurance, to answer your questions, and if something goes wrong, he's there to back it up with his company. 816-540-7057, roofedbyroyal.com. That is the website. Jim Dingman, of course, at Funhouse Pizza. He's always our host when we do the things on the road, and we just did one at the Lee's Summit location, 50 Highway in Lee's Summit. He's also got location 7 Highway in Blue Springs. Whether you want to dine in, take out, order it online, it's a great pizza, great drinks, and if you've got something you want to celebrate, like a birthday party, an anniversary, my goodness, we probably have Little League meetings going on now. Get the team meeting done there. Whatever you're celebrating or enjoying with a big group of people, do it at Funhouse Pizza, 50 Highway, Lee Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. And even if you want to grab pizza to take home, we'd recommend Funhouse Pizza as the best pizza in town. Speaking of Funhouse, we were there last Tuesday night with a couple of legislators from the Missouri House. Our next guest was not able to be there, but he is with us now via Zoom. Well, we have a special guest who could not be with us last Tuesday night for the podcast live event, and he's checking in from the capital of Missouri in Jefferson City. He is State Representative Mike Steinmeyer. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Sorry I missed you last time.
Oh, no, not at all.
Be with you again.
Yep. We're very glad to have you here because there have been some things that have happened since we were together with Ron Fowler, and she was on the podcast before.
Carolyn Caton.
Carolyn Caton. I'm spacing the name. Sorry about that, Carolyn. But there have been some things that have happened in the meantime, and I want to start there because I know the three of you have worked really hard as Eastern Jackson County legislators on what's going on with Jackson County. The latest news that I saw was the county has essentially given in to the tax commission. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah.
They should have done it a long time ago, but yeah. So it sounds like they are going in the right direction with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some suspicion out there that maybe they caved too early or something like that. I know Preston Smith. You probably know Preston as well, right?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Because he wants to run for assessor, and that's one of the issues that Carolyn Caton brought up is we need an elected assessor because Jackson County is the only county in the state that doesn't have one, and he would like to be that assessor. So he's kind of suspicious. Are you suspicious at all?
Well, I think that some things have to play out. First, Dale, I think there has to be a charter change within the county, and that will probably require a vote of the people as well. Now, I'm not a legal scholar on that. I've just been looking at it and talking to a couple of lawyers, and they were thinking in the same way that in order for us to accomplish that, we're going to have to change the county charter.
And that would be a statewide vote.
That would be.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Of course, as a Jackson County homeowner, I definitely want to see those things roll back. There are some other issues involved, I know, with the other taxing entities that they may have to change their levy to make up for it. Do you know much about that?
No, the levies have been an issue since this whole boondoggle started. And that's one reason when I was on the Council on Independence that we initiated, I sponsored a resolution to sue the county as a city because we couldn't set our levies. We just didn't know how to set them. And you always run the risk that the county would come back, want to claw back a bunch of money. And so we were just trying to protect ourselves as a city. And so I do think there are going to be lots of questions for the municipalities in the county regarding levy setting.
Yeah. You know, a couple of years ago, I remember I called Jeff Coleman because, and really the straw that broke it for me was not what was going on with the tax assessments. It was that they put the statues on the ballot again, and we'd already voted for that. And I called Jeff Coleman and I said, why are we even in this county? You've got a bunch of suburbs that have nothing in common with the city core. It's been done before in Missouri. And then Ron Fowler told me that you might be on board with that you kind of look at it as the nuclear option. Where are you at on separating these two counties and setting up our own?
You know, that I floated that idea back when I was on the Council on Independence that we should have a petition to ask to separate Kansas City from Jackson County and let Kansas City become its own city. Jackson County it'd basically be Eastern Jackson County. I have ran that through our research here in Jefferson City using the same blueprint that St. Louis and St. Louis County used. I have the bill in my desk, and I'm trying to be patient and let this broken county government fix some things. If they can't do it, I will more than likely I'll file this bill January of next year.
Well, I'm going to be your number one cheerleader on this because you look at it as the nuclear option. Maybe they'll get their act together. I am not optimistic at all. I don't think they're ever going to get their act together. And then I look at it like, I live in Blue Springs. You're in Independence, Sugar Creek, that area, Lee's Summit, all these other suburbs. What do we have in common with the city core? And I don't think we have a lot in common at all. So I don't understand what the benefit of staying in this combined county is. Is there a benefit that I'm missing?
No, I really couldn't tell you right off what it would be. I think that Eastern Jackson County would like to have their voice heard and not have it always seemingly. It just feels like Kansas City overrides the will of Eastern Jackson County when it comes to voting. And I think it's we're at that place where, like your community, Lee Summit, Grain Valley, even Grandview, Raytown, they're growing for the most part. All of them are growing, and they can sustain the county structure without Kansas City. That's my belief, and I think that having you on board, it'll take a lot of cheerleading to get the traction that we'll need to see this bill all the way through. Well, it will take a lot of folks.
I think we'd be better off, quite frankly, because the suburbs are tougher on crime. I think of Jason Aldean's song, Try That in a Small Town. I mean, we are tougher on crime than they are. It's just culturally, I don't think there are a lot of connections here. Now, in 1876, to your point, when St. Louis separated from the county, it was the city that said, we don't want the county. And so they divorced the county. This would be the opposite of that.
Yeah, and the blueprint wouldn't the way they've written the bill, the blueprint is the same. It's just like you said, it just being reversed. Yeah. And I think I have received quite a bit of response when I mentioned it at the Lincoln Days. I have people that are hoping that I will file it, and like I said, I've been patient. We've been trying. I didn't want to get things stirred up that would hinder what Carolyn and Ron were trying to do. So,
well, I'm with you. So just know that I'm with you. You're in Jefferson City right now because the governor has called a special session. This one is related to keeping the Chiefs and Royals in Missouri. You want to weigh in on that at all?
Sure. Senate Bill 80 was the bill that gave, essentially, it just gave the governor a seat at the table to get these negotiations finalized, get a framework for an agreement. That, of course, stalled out in the Senate, which was very disappointing. This governor is not going to go down as a governor who loses two sports teams. It's just not going to happen. So I think now that he has called that special session, I believe, this is just me, I believe that he has a framework in place and he's ready to close this deal. And so I'm with him. I voted for it, and I will vote again. I want to keep our sports teams in Missouri.
You think the Chiefs might stay at the Truman Sports Complex? Because clearly the Royals are not. They're going to go somewhere. You think the Chiefs might stay?
I think so. I think the Chiefs would. I think they would utilize that space where you had two stadiums. I think they have something that they've designed which would work and economically would impact the area probably even greater, as well as with one sports team there. It should reduce taxes on the residents of the county as well.
Interesting. Well, as the stadium announcer for the Chiefs, I like the fact that Arrowhead is 10 minutes from my house in Blue Springs. I don't want them to move to Kansas because it'd be a longer drive. If those star bonds were such a great deal, they would have done this some time ago. I really believe that. So I don't think the star bonds are. I'm just glad Missouri doesn't do star bonds. I think economically they are. They have troubled waters in them, and I think that anything tied to retail right now would be just a little scary. So, and you see some of the star bonds that they have. Prairie Fire is underwater. Schlitterbaum, that's gone, and there was one other I think that they lost as well. So it is not a great bond program
And if Kansas wants to continue to use them, so be it. But I think the owners kind of see through what the Star bonds are too.
All right. Well, do some good work down there in Jeff City. We'll follow that, and we'll also follow that bill that's in your drawer there in the desk, and hopefully that'll get filed in January. We'll, again, be one of your biggest cheerleaders on this podcast. Mike Steinmeyer from Sugar Creek, thank you so much for joining us here, and please come again.
Dale, thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to talking to you again.
You bet. Well, we thank Representative Steinmeyer for being on with us today. And again, we're going to continue to follow that, especially the separation of the counties issue, which, you know, I am a big fan of. Something I'm not a big fan of is traffic in the rain, because it seems like every time we have rain in the Kansas City area, it's demolition derby and cars are running into each other. I'll tell you who does like that, though, is my friend Dale Reynolds, because Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs, when you break up your car, he can put it back together again. Even if a deer ran out in front of your car. If the car can be salvaged, Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs will get it done for you. They've been taking care of cars in the Kansas City area all the way back to the 1980s. And the shop is in Blue Springs. It's on 40 Highway, but he does cars from all over the metro area. Does police cars on the Kansas side when they break up their cars. So if you get in an accident, no matter what kind of accident you've had, and it's salvageable, the wrecker's going to say, where are we going to take this thing? Say Dale's Body Shop. Taking care of customers, taking care of you, and they've been doing that since 1987. So get with Dale's Body Shop. They restore stuff all the time. I know some of the video that Kurt is playing right now are vehicles that Dale Reynolds has restored. And maybe it's not just a wreck. Maybe it's, you know, somebody keyed your car and you need to match the paint or whatever. Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs can take care of any of your vehicle needs. Good guy. And again, we like our sponsors who go hand in glove, and Dale's Body Shop goes hand in glove with Bob Watson's State Farm Insurance. I have both. Dale's has fixed I don't know how many of my cars when I've wrecked them up. And Bob Watson's been my insurance agent for 30 years. He's been taking care of folks in the Kansas City area for 51 years. That's got to be the gold standard in State Farm.
I'd say congratulations.
If you trust the brand State Farm, you should trust Bob Watson. Been doing it for a very long time. Bundle your home and car insurance and save even more. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance, boats. The pontoon boats will be out before you know it. I think summer is finally going to set in here in the Kansas City area. Bob's licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. Call him for a rate quote today at 816-229-7878. We leave you with this. Scott Pelley. He was on 60 Minutes for a long time, right? He's the guy who we played the clip from when the producer basically quit.
Yeah.
Because even though no one had told him what to do, he just felt like it was an ominous presence and he couldn't do his job anymore. Well, Scott Pelley, a now former CBS News reporter, was the commencement speaker at Wake Forest University this year. You graduated from college, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember your commencement speaker?
I didn't go to graduation.
Yeah. Well, I did go to my graduation.
I partied on the river instead.
The governor of Indiana at the time gave our commencement address, and I don't really remember any of it. But most commencement addresses are like, you know, the world is your oyster. Go out there, you know, go forth and multiply or whatever.
Yeah.
And
they're all really, really similar and really, really boring.
Not this one. Scott Pelley goes out there and he uses it to basically say and reveal the bias that we all suspected. Roll his commencement address.
But in this moment, this morning, our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America.
Oh, in America.
If our government is, in Lincoln's phrase, of the people, by the people, for the people, then why are we afraid to speak?
You can cut him off there. I mean, that
So
makes the point.
self-important, man.
No doubt. You know,
What's up with the attitude?
and the hand gestures in America. This is going on. Okay, so here's my take on this. Perhaps he forgot when we were told what pronouns we had to use, right? And if we used the wrong pronouns, we were subject to criminal investigation, right? In California, for sure, you got to use the right pronoun. Was that freedom of speech? Perhaps he forgot the FBI taking down parents' license plates when they dared to speak up at school board meetings, like the Gestapo might have done in Nazi Germany. You know, we can use that phrasing as well. The Nazis were really good at that, okay? He seems to forget when we were shamed into seeing a man, a biological man, competing with the girls and told we have to accept that. Sports teams bending the knee to change mascots because people were triggered, right? So my question is, and you probably have an answer to this, are we freer to speak now than we were then?
I mean, I would just add more examples. I would say people being arrested for protesting at abortion clinics, people having their kids taken away from them because they don't agree with the gender ideology that their teachers had pushed on them in public education. Those are the first two that come to mind. But yeah, I mean, should we have freedom of speech? Absolutely.
Yes.
There are limits to that, of course. But yeah, you know, you should be able to say what you want and mean it. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and it's not what he says it is.
Yeah, definitely not what he says it is. And he and his ilk in the media, on the left media, which is basically all of the heritage media, again, they were the ones feeding you the line of shit that everything was fine with Joe Biden, right? They fed you the big lie. And now the most hypocritical of them, like Jake Tapper to the clips that you played, are out there saying, how did we miss this? And you played all those clips where he was covering for Biden.
Yeah.
And Scott Pelley's done the same thing.
But did you know that he has a new book coming out?
I did know that. In America, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I should start doing like big hand gestures and all that. Until next week, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.